And hello, everyone, and welcome to Hugh Talks. I'm thrilled to have everyone joining us for what's going to be a very insightful and engaging session. So for today's Hugh Talk, we'll be diving into some key strategies around HR tech stacks, employee experience, and the role of efficiency-driven HR strategies. I really want this session to be as interactive as possible, so please feel free to submit any questions in the chat. I'm going to have an eye on that throughout the webinar, and I'll definitely be taking, and we'll be taking some time to address that. So to make this discussion a little bit more enriching, I invited Ursula Llabres, got that right, and
Yes.
she's a very special guest. She's a senior advisor at Sixth Street Partners. Ursula has worked with some of the biggest names in the industry to achieve some major goals, and I look forward to learning with the audience directly from your experience. So with Ursula's 20 years of experience in customer success, go-to-market strategy, and value creation across many of the top tech companies, her proven track record in letting companies unlock revenue growth and sustainable customer value. Previously, Ursula, before she went to Sixth Street, she was led global customer success, renewals, and growth programs at Meta, where we worked together. And Ursula managed over 11,000 clients and oversaw $100 million in annual recurring revenue. So she's amazing leadership in scaling teams, building successful customer engagement models, and I'm really excited to have this conversation and learn from you, Ursula. So
Thanks,
thank
Gavin.
you for joining, of course.
My pleasure.
So Ursula, to kick things off, question for you. We all really want to know, so with your extensive experience working with CEOs, CHROs, and advising mid to late stage startups, what are the biggest shifts in employee experience in 2025 and really what's driving them?
Thank you, Gavin. That's a great question. I would say that the most significant shifts are happening now. In this year, the workplace is undergoing a rapid transformation. AI, automation, and efficiency are at the forefront. Many companies are advocating return to the office policies. Many of you are probably experiencing that right now. And they're emphasizing innovation and cost control. We know that from Meta as well. In the last few years, the year of efficiency really have driven much of those changes that I just mentioned. However, this shift has led to resistance, particularly concerning transparency, work-life balance, and employee well-being. So the pressing question really is, how can companies harness both the uncertainty and the opportunity of this evolving landscape? So let's do a little dive into this. One of the significant trends that I'm observing is tech stack consolidation. So companies are streamlining their tools and prioritizing AI to enhance data flow, to reduce context switching and drive efficiency. So one interesting fact, a study by MIT found that generative AI can improve a highly skilled worker's performance by nearly 40% compared to those who don't use it. That's significant. We were just talking about that before we started the webinar. In this context, HR platforms like Human, for example, have evolved beyond mere back office functions, right? So they now play a pivotal role in employee communications and engagement. The most effective platforms help centralize updates, announcements, feedback, and even integrate AI-driven insights, ensuring employees are informed, connected, and empowered. So, word of caution on that, focusing solely on efficiency and automation without addressing the employee needs can also lead to burnout, increased turnover, and diminished productivity. So it's really all about finding the right balance. Leveraging AI and automation while simultaneously investing in engagement and well-being. So I would love to explore 3 strategies to help drive this shift effectively. So the number 1 is leveraging AI and upskilling your employee base to drive growth. Rather than using AI merely as a cost-cutting tool, companies should harness it to enhance productivity and to enable employees to engage in higher value tasks. For instance, I'll give you an example. JP Morgan Chase reporting that implementing an AI coding assistant boosted their software engineers' efficiency up 20%, allowing them to focus on more strategic projects. So this was from an article in the New York Post. At the same time, investing in upskilling your talent is crucial. With the rapid evolution of technology, providing career paths that are clear and learning opportunities are helping employees stay relevant. Because a lot of employees are afraid of what AI can do to their career path. So being proactive in providing that is going to be key. Most expect that AI adoption is going to lead to at least 20% more of employees needing to be reskilled. HR platforms can bridge this gap by integrating learning tools within company workflows, ensuring employees are informed about training, skill development, and internal opportunities. This is hugely important. Not only that, it also helps after the training to have the dialogue and create community as a result of that. This approach fosters a culture of continuous learning and engagement, so leading to higher employee ROI and compared to having to lay off and rehire employees, because that cycle is quite costly. The second strategy is to foster a culture of innovation and adaptability. That's easier said than done. Organizations that thrive are those that encourage employees to share ideas and to embrace change. This is important more now than ever it was. Facilitating this, employees need an open, collaborative environment where they feel heard. HR platforms equipped with a robust communication features such as messaging, announcements, feedback, and surveys can really help dismantle these silos and promote cross-department collaboration. Surveys provide a valuable data because you can get like pulse data in terms of how employees are doing right away, as well as more complex and comprehensive surveys as well. So when analyzing with that data with AI tools, you can really predict employee behavior and sentiment. For example, as reported in Forbes, AI algorithms can analyze patterns in employee behavior, such as manager reviews and workloads, and detect early signs of burnout, enabling timely interventions to improve employee well-being. Imagine that. That is extremely valuable, not just for the company, but also for that manager. This open collaboration fosters a culture where employees feel valued, enhance innovation, and then they can adapt to that change because they're part of it. The third and last is maintain transparency and trust, especially now. These uncertain times, trust becomes paramount. Did you know that a Gallup survey revealed that only 20% of the US employees trust their company's leadership? This is a significant trust deficit. Exactly. It's when I saw that, I was like, that's the lowest I've ever seen it.
That's incredible.
A trust deficit underscores a critical need for transparent and effective communication with organizations. So this is paramount. So HR platforms can serve as a central hub for updates, feedback, and reduce the distance between leadership and employees and partners as well. When employees are well informed and aligned with leadership, they're more likely to remain engaged, adapt to change, feel part of the solution, and feel motivated and committed to the organization's success. So in order to just wrap this up, because I know we're going to head into Q&A, as we navigate this evolving employee experience landscape, the key takeaway is clear. Efficiency alone is not sufficient for long-term success. Organizations really must balance automation and AI integration with a steadfast commitment to engagement, growth, and transparency. By combining efficiency-driven strategies with human-centric approaches, companies can adapt to these changes and thrive, ensuring their workforce remains engaged, resilient, and prepared to the future. So with that, I love to open the floor for questions.
That was wonderful, Ursula. Thank you. So insightful. Everyone, open up for questions here. We'll be paying attention to the comments. And as you brainstorm and put those questions in the comments, Ursula, that was such valuable insight. And I'm sure everyone on the call today has their wheels turning on how these concepts can make a difference at their organizations. But there's one thing that you said that really resonated with me, and what I'm hearing a lot, was that like this focus on upskilling and adopting tools to an organization, and innovation like this is so critical. And it reminded me of one of our customers, Miniso. And one of the ways that Humand helped drive that growth and transformation in HR operations was through upskilling and adopting the right tools. And Miniso did this with Humand. So a little bit of background. Miniso is a global retail brand that we partnered with the end goal of enhancing their internal comms and HR operations. I would say, Ursula, that Miniso is a little bit unique because they operate with a highly dispersed workforce, spanning across multiple countries, regions, with thousands of employees in there. And their main challenge was consistent engagement and seamless communication across their network. And so, when we're talking about tools that can support teams be more connected, that's their HR internal comms, our teams at Humand worked with the Miniso team to centralize their communication and streamline their information sharing, recognitions, important updates, across their whole organization. The end goal is to foster that culture of innovation, growth, adaptability, but at the end of the day, also ensure that store leaders, managers, and frontline employees remain aligned, regardless of their locations. So it definitely.
I see a question from, this is great. I love that story because it really highlights how Miniso focused both on what the company's objectives were, but really focused on the employee experience. And having such a dispersed workforce is hard to create alignment, to create community. So it's a great story to hear the impact that they had. I see we have a question from LinkedIn.
Okay. Catalina. So here's the question. So what should companies look for when selecting HR technology to ensure efficiency and scalability?
That's a great question. So I would think of it in three parts. The first one is integration, right? So is the technology that you are bringing in or exploring easy to integrate into your tech stack? I think this is part of the first point that I mentioned. A lot of the leaders, what they're looking for is tech stack consolidation. So it either has a seamless integration into the tech stack, and that the data can bring and be additive to that. The second one is stakeholder buy-in, right? So this is a big part of using references, evaluating the references from that company, the technology that you're exploring, ensuring that the different executives who are going to be leveraging this technology are bought into this solution. In order to do that, right, you need to understand what problems they're trying to solve with their solution and making sure that solution is able to do that. So stakeholder buy-in is extremely key. And the last one, and I would say the most important one, is to ensure employee experience. So just like we talked about earlier on, when I think about the technology that you're bringing in for your employees, you want it to be value added. You want it to help make their employee work life simpler, and better, right? So how is this technology adding value to the employee experience? How does it improve your employees' daily work? So that would be, I think, 3 things that I would look for the technology that I'm evaluating.
That's such a great answer, Ursula. And I totally agree. I think that also too, like when
Mm,
evaluating HR tech, I think it's important to like not only focus on, your HR management systems,
yeah,
but also include internal comms too. I know that a lot of our customers are consolidating their tech stack and using
yeah,
Humanta for both internal communications, HR management, and intranet. So thank you for the question.
yeah.
Well,
You
we
said
have
one.
we have another question. So if someone has 100% remote company with people from different countries, how is it possible to foster the global culture?
Great. I mean, I have a great answer for that, but I'll also pass it to you. And I've seen this happen in the past 8 years when we were working at Meta,
Mhm.
when Workplace was still in the market. Obviously, now Human is a
Yes.
platform that does similar things and kind of has taken it to the next level. One of the first things I think that is important to look is how are employees connecting with each other and obtaining the information about the mission, vision, values, right? How if employees have to do a lot of context switching, have to go into a chatting app, have to go into email, have to go into your intranet, then the messaging is not necessarily as cohesive. So ideally, you have one platform where your executives are providing updates, perhaps sharing stories in a more personalized way to kind of shorten the distance of connection. Ideally, a platform that can use translation features, because especially if you're in different countries, you're probably going to find different languages, different cultural contexts. So if the technology helps facilitate dialogue in the native language of the person that's receiving the message, that's even better. So I would say, ideally, it's a technology that is going to unify how the messages are distributed, how conversation happens in the company. And so once you have that unification, fostering a global culture then depends on the company's mission and values, right? Because I think that is something Meta, when we joined years ago, did really well as well. They had like really strong values. These values were represented and how we evaluated performance of employees and all those things. So then you're leveraging the one platform to communicate and uphold the values of the company, and also celebrate employees from different parts of the country, recognize their contributions globally. So I think those would be the things that I consider in terms of fostering a global culture. I don't know if you have other things that you would include based on what you've seen with human customers.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a great point, Ursula, of like how do you actually foster that connection within an organization through a tool? And I think that there's a few solutions to that. Like we have our two-way communications, right? Through like our chat modules for you and I to talk as we've known each other. And then
Mhm.
we have greater group conversations in groups, but also like institutional news and like magazine modules where employees can stay connected to company
Yeah,
values, missions, news, um, and just have available options for any organization to stay connected.
yeah,
Thanks, Ursula. That was a great
yeah.
question from the audience. Um, so I
Mm.
so now that we've answered a few of these questions, I kind of want to put a few things out there for the group to consider. So we're
Mhm.
going to use the chat again to consider and answer these questions, and we want to hear your thoughts. So the first question is that I would love to hear from the audience is like, what are your biggest HR or employee experience challenges that your companies are facing today? Um,
Yes.
so I'll give you guys a little bit of time. dive into that and ask in the chat.
So what are your top challenges employees are
Yes.
facing right today?
Yeah, like what are your top HR challenges that all the HR leaders who are joining are facing today? That can be around engagement, retention, keeping up with new HR tech, consolidating tech stacks. I'd love to hear from the group.
I think too, while we're waiting for folks to respond, there's a question from Maria. It says, how can companies prepare their HR teams to be more tech strategic and not be afraid of losing their jobs? This is such a great question. And that I think applies to things that are unknown, right? Most of the times I would say the biggest hurdle to overcome is fear. Fear in itself can really paralyze somebody from learning, from making decisions, from moving forward. So how do you overcome fear is by learning, by being open to trying things out, but including these employees in the evaluation of something new and letting them use new technology so that they can bring their experience and know-how and adapt it to this new way of doing things. So what happens is a lot of people feel technologies like AI are going to replace what they do. And in fact, it doesn't have to, right? What you can do is see how this technology can be additive, can complement, save time, so that these experts, these HR experts, can actually become more strategic and learn new things themselves, right? How can they add more value? So I think when you look at it as how do I stop doing some things that are not adding value through technology and create space to do more of that, even just interact with people more often, create or drive efficiency in the programs that they're doing. So those are the one things is get them comfortable by ensuring that they can feel, practice, and use these new technologies, and explain things that oftentimes people just don't understand, right? So oftentimes people are afraid to ask questions. Again, fear, right? They're afraid to ask questions. So creating the conditions for asking questions, for people feeling that they can trust each other in this evaluation and voicing their concerns off the bat, so the person that's evaluating can comfortably answer these concerns. And I think that's the most important thing, I would say.
And you bring up a good point of like approaching this with transparency, but we can also approach it with education, right? And create courses for employees to like learn how to use these tools and incorporate AI into their day-to-day. So I appreciate that's a great question because we're all going to have to go through this. We're all going through it. So
yeah, and I think once you kind of peel the layers of the onion, you understand it's these technologies have been developed by humans, and so right. And I think it's just a matter of seeking to understand them better and seeking to understand how they can add value to the work that you do versus it being in competition to the work that you do. So
most definitely.
In a way, this is an opportunity to disrupt yourself.
Yes, I know. That's any other questions from our audience here? Give it a little bit of time.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any answers on your question in terms of, but what have you seen from conversations that you've had with customers in terms of what are their top challenges?
So I think that for a lot of our customers and a lot of companies out there, a big challenge is consolidating tech stack. I mean, their billing departments are getting pulled in different directions, paying for different tools. When I think that in reality, if you look at what's out there, there's a lot of options that can offer consolidations where you can operate your internal communications as well as HR management systems, your LMS, as well as internet, all in one tool. So
Yeah.
whether that is supported through AI, but a lot of our customers that I'm working with love Human for that reason.
Yeah. I was recently on a webinar with various chief HR officers,
Mhm.
and the theme was really around talent development.
Yeah.
It was interesting, obviously, because a lot of companies are looking to develop their next executive bench, or to understand how do they need to prepare their employees. I think that goes to Maria's question earlier. How do they prepare employees and upskill employees on with the next set of values and behaviors and skill sets to help take the company to the next level? So I found that is one of the top challenges that leaders are facing today, is how do they upskill themselves as well as create the talent for the next generation?
And that ties into the culture as well and
Yeah.
communication. So it looks like we have one more question here. Um, so this is from Felice. So what recommendations do you have to help foster trust in employees
Mm.
um, who need to believe? What recommendations do you have to help foster the trust employees need to believe to provide honest feedback?
That's great. So great question. And trust is earned, right? Trust is not a given. So I do believe that there is an opportunity for leaders and managers in general to reset expectations, right? Because I think that's is number one. It's expectations of what the company is doing, expectations with the role of employees have in creating value for the company and value for themselves. So start with that, is making sure that the expectations are reset, and that when somebody promises something, that this is follow through. This is the most important part, is under promise and over deliver, in essence, right? So oftentimes leaders tend to create such big expectations. Obviously, that is their job, to create inspiration. But in terms of coming down to expectations of delivering of those objectives, I think leaders need to be really careful in just making sure that they're not promising things that they cannot deliver. And I think that is the most important part, is to make sure that the programs that are set in place are realistic to what the company can deliver. And so when expectations are met and when people deliver on the promises that they make, then the trust is earned. So that's number one. The other thing is also to create a space where there is privacy, that there is an opportunity that their information perhaps is not distributed more broadly, right? That there are introverts and extroverts, right? Not everybody wants to speak loudly or be recognized by giving feedback, but a lot of employees want to give the feedback and not necessarily get the recognition from that. So create an opportunity for employees to contribute with feedback without necessarily having to be all broadcasted more widely. So surveys are a great method for that. Small groups, private groups, where there is an opportunity for employees to share their opinions without them fearing that these opinions are going to be shared more broadly. So those are things, a couple of things that I would suggest are key to help that foster trust and transparency, right? I think being proactive. I know this is really important, is before it shows up in the news, you want to know it before, right? If your company is announcing something great or not great, right? If the leadership or the communication team would share and educate, hey, by the way, this is going to show up in the news. By the way, this is what an award that we're going to win. We should celebrate. Proactive communication is key also to transparency and trust.
Ursula, thank you for sharing that. You can tell that you've done this for a long time at a very high level and have managed large teams. So we've had a very engaging and
Yeah.
interactive audience. So I thank everyone for your input, and I hope that everyone got some insightful information from this call that you can bring back directly to your organizations. And so I want to do a quick recap before we log off. So when you leave this call, I hope that everyone here in the audience remembers, the 5 important core concepts, that you can hopefully implement into your organizations. And one being the importance of building a robust and integrated HR tech stack, whether that's through AI, tools you have in place, or tools you're exploring like Human. And 2, the value of enhancing employee experience through technology. 3, optimization of onboarding for effective HR tool adoption. And 4, how success teams can drive continuous engagement and tool utilization. And lastly, 5, the critical nature of improving internal communication through HR technology like Human. So thank you, Ursula, for being a part of the call and
Thank you,
providing
Gavin.
your input. It's so valuable. The knowledge that you shared with me and the audience. And so for everyone listening, if you have any additional questions about optimizing your HR tech stack and improving employee experience in 2025, I'd love to have a conversation with you. So please reach out via LinkedIn or the Human website, and we can have those conversations.
Wonderful.
So, thank you, Ursula.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too. Bye.